Well, boys, welcome to another deck video. I love doing these, and I hope you love watching them as well. Last time I did the video about this deck, the Tanks VDV, it was about a month ago, which, you know, wow, how time flies. So, we've obviously updated it since then. We've tweaked the deck up quite a bit, and hopefully this is a much more refined, improved, and better version. I really hope you enjoy it, and we're going to be comparing the decks side by side throughout the stage, and I'll show you why this one is better. Let's start with the Recon tab. So as you can see, back then I used to have 4 snipers, right? And I think I had them in the long rifles, so like the Russian 50 cal is that? 338, okay. Le Pour Magnum, that's what LM stands for, but now I keep them in the suppressed. Firstly, because obviously it's a bit cheaper, but also because firing while suppressed means that your snipers are very much less likely to get spotted. Also, pro little fun tip is that when you have the suppressed version, this just does a shit ton more damage at the cost of a bit of range. And to be honest, yeah, I like the VSS for some reason, it's really cool, but I don't use my snipers for offensive actions ever, so why would you not give them suppressed weapons? I do just use them for eyes and ears, and before I used to use them, you know, for little pot shots. On weak targets if they were spotted, but now I let somebody else do that job, and these are literally my eyes and ears only. And 85 points, super expensive when you compare it to the VDV Spetsnaz. So last time I had these boys in, but I had them in the RPG 16 launcher setup, which terrible idea, because this is kind of weak and it's one launcher and you want these guys as an anti-infantry team, whereas yeah, the Burr, the Firma Barrack launcher is just phenomenal. It kills infantry really well, and you know, you get 2 of them firing. And again, with the suppressor, these things, this is a light machine gun, so it fires. What's the caliber that it shoots? 5.45. So yeah, and this is a 7.62. What? This submachine gun is 7.62. What's it here? 5.45. Wow. Okay, I mean. 7.62 submachine gun is phenomenal, right? The squad has 10 armor. These guys, even though there's only 5 of them, they absolutely wipe out infantry. They really do. Obviously, they've got 2.5 stealth, as you'd expect with any little recon squad. They look really cool too. That's another bonus for them, to be fair. And yeah, they've got the standard non-sniper viewpoint of 1,750. Now, I should probably bring in more Typhoon VDVs for the Lima special, which I know you guys know that I love doing. Last time I had 4 of them. This time there's only 3. Sorry, 2, with you know, the cheaper one here. So yeah, mixed feelings. I love the Lima special. Can I do as much damage with 2 as I can with 3? Probably not, and I don't really have anything else in the deck that is capable of that. Apart from this helicopter, which, you know, that is basically the same thing, but it's a bit more survivable than vehicles, and it's got 25 ECM. But I'll get on to that later. This could be the new version of the Lima special. Let's stick to the Recon tab for now. The Orion, okay, I mean, this is still set up as it was before, 2 of these drones to get some good eyes and ears. What I didn't have before, I used to have this Sarmat with the, I think I would have probably put the Metis on it. Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, good because it's really fast and mobile, but this, you know, 1 hit doesn't do too much damage. Getting 1 hit is almost impossible, so you could have these in pairs. What actually works kind of surprisingly well is using this minigun. You get 3 of these doing a run, and it can take out vehicles, you know, obviously at very close range, but still, this is also a really good option. And yeah, you know what? I'm tempted to rejig this deck to put these boys in. So you know what? Let's do that now. There we go. A live update. Well, I could just do this. Ah, but I want 2 BRMs. Okay. For now, we're going to do this. Save. And as you can see, the BRM with the 57mm is a fantastic vehicle, right? The only reason that I'm happy to take a cut on one of them is obviously because of the Barbarisses here, which I've got 3 of, which we'll get to in just a moment. But when it comes to the Recon tab, this really is a fantastic setup. The VDV Spetsnaz are just phenomenal. These boys are killing infantry. Now, when it comes to these guys, not my favorite. I mean, they're fine. They're absolutely fine. They work well, but they're just they're not as good as the VDV Spetsnaz, and for 60 points, what a lethal squad. Really lethal. Look at that light machine gun, wow. Anyway, so that is the Recon tab. So let's go into the infantry. Look, back then I used to have, I'll get it up on the screen, just some guards, Matestrilki, the Cornet M version, and Verbers. That is all I had in the infantry. Look, it's become a bit more diverse. Obviously, I've still got the Cornet and the Verber. Got rid of the guards. Instead, I've got this super cheap squad of VDV D Shah. I think the Russian would say VDV D Shah. And the Shah, I think, stands for Sturmoviki, i.e. stormtroopers. So, like, yeah, the boys who would go into buildings, clear them out, and take positions. But the reason that you have these VDV the Shah is because of these two RPGs. Like 500 is not a lot, but look how much they cost. 50 fucking points. That's unreal. And you get a decent machine gun with them as well. So 50 points, you get a pair of these. 100 points, you get 4 of these RPGs, and 4 RPGs firing at the same time. Okay, one will get stopped to active protection, but the other 3 are gonna hit, and they're gonna hit fairly hard. Not the hardest, but they're absolutely going to do a decent amount of damage, which is really good. So, yeah, whereas the guards, they had 4 shots only, without reloads, of really high penetration and similar, you know, slightly higher, but similar damage. The fact is, I'd say maybe, well, at least one of them would get APS stopped, the next one would probably get smoke stopped, so only 2 would actually hit. So, whereas these guys obviously have reloads, so each bazooka, each RPG has 4 rockets that it can fire. So, yeah, I much prefer this small little squad. It's also pretty good at infantry. Again, like this little machine gun, which is a 5.45 machine gun. It does high damage, and I really like using it. So you obviously want these guys in a pair, or a 3, really. And to bring them into battle is this vehicle, which I overlooked back on the original build, in favor of more of the Barbarisses, but again, the cheaper Barbarisses, which, yeah, as you can see now, I am not taking the Barbaris in any other configuration. This 57mm cannon is fantastic. I've killed so many helicopters and vehicles with this. The front armor is impregnable, and it's just a fantastic vehicle. Now, people have suggested to me to take this, basically a 50% off B15. It's 50% off the T15, right? So a budget version of the T15. Unfortunately, though, its front armor is paper thin. You'd actually rather have this scout vehicle instead of that. And things like the Booker with its 50mm cannon can do a huge amount of damage to this guy. Whereas they can do 0 damage to the front of this guy. Like, actually 0. Two T15s firing at each other. You might have seen the meme. It's just... it's pretty funny. They just literally sit there shooting at each other, doing 0 damage. Okay, we've kept the Cornets, but you know what? I haven't put the more expensive option, because the difference between 12 damage and 13 is negligible as far as I'm concerned. You'd rather get a cheaper squad with more missiles firing, I would suggest. The range of 200 meters and the increased penetration is significant, but again, I'd rather have more of these squads at a cheaper price, right? So that's my logic behind that. So yeah, Cornet M is great, but the Cornet on its own is 30 points cheaper, which I think is significant and does almost as much damage at a slightly reduced range. So that's my rationale behind it. Also, when things fire at 1,800 meters, it gives the enemy more time to smoke off, which I see happening quite a lot. So, like I said, this deck is honestly fantastic. It is still the most versatile deck in the game, and it's very customizable, as you can see. Yeah, you can customize this for days. So many good options here, but this is the option that I'm liking the most these days. I don't go anywhere without taking, like, against infantry, for 60 points you get 2 absolute infantry shredders, and people... you know how units get panicky in-game? I think players, when they see these open up, they panic, smoke, retreat their infantry almost immediately, because these do shred infantry, but not actually as badly as some people might think. Obviously, if you get into the building with these guys are dead. 6 armor, that's really weak. Actually, what armor do these guys have? 8! Damn, maybe these are better. but their grenades do slightly less damage, so... Oh, well, you know what? Here's an idea. I'll take 2 of each. Again, updating the deck on the fly. You know, you're always learning in Broken Arrow, and I'm fine with that. So yeah, AGS 30s, i.e. 30mm grenades, I think they are. Yeah, and these are 40, aka 40mm grenades. There we go. Right, beautiful. So that's how we're going to run it from now on. So as you can see, a lot more diversity in this build already. I have considered getting out this squad because you get a 50 cal machine gun as well as an ATGM. It's 80 points, but I think when it comes to requiring a heavy machine gun, I think I'd rather be more reliant on this bad boy, which is expensive, but you know. I should note as well on this vehicle, I've stuck the dual 23mm cannons. The cheaper ones. I could be tempted to do this, but honestly, I've got a Tor in the deck, and the Iglas, they don't hit as hard. I would rather the Verbers fire, and I just want this literally just for its guns to open up on infantry, light vehicles, and occasionally aircraft. The best part about the Rakushka, which is the the vehicle this is based on, is the fact that it can take 15 men, which is these squads are usually in 4s or 5s. The Cornet is a 5, for example. The AGS is a 5 here, and it's a 4 here. Yeah, this is a lot more survivable. I might just... It's also, I've noticed, fun little fact for you, 30 round magazine. This magazine is 20, so it'll shoot a bit less, before having to reload. So, yeah, we're going to change that. I'm going to delete that. We're going to change this around. The VDV infantry, they're paratroopers. They're supposed to be some of the toughest infantry, well, in the army, right? Paratroopers are your elite standard infantry. So, yeah, it makes sense that they're very good for the Russian side. And yeah, like I said, I got rid of the guards, Matistrilki. Instead, I've put in the Desantniki, which means paratroopers. Now, the reason is, let's just compare the two squads here. We'll do this quick overview. We'll get the guards out. So, AKs. Again, the paratroopers have more powerful AKs, slightly, but significantly. Underbarrel's the same. Machine guns, right? Range is the same, but these hit slightly harder. Again, not the biggest difference, but they cost the same. Look. And you can obviously drop these in Paris. Not that I have any transport planes, but they're just tougher as well. Like, so 6 armor, 8 armor here. More health points because there's an extra 2 men in this squad as well. And again, with the RPG, that's got 4 shots, which is fine. I mean, like for RPGs, my VDV Desha Shturmoviki is what is going to try and deal with the tanks. These guys are just mainly to try and deal with, be an all-rounder kind of guy, that's got a bit of AT capability and good anti-infantry capability as well. But none of these units in the infantry tab will ever be alone. I will always have, 2 of these guys, 1 of these guys, and then 1 of these. I'd probably have 1 of each on the front line. None of them are working on their own. But when you have these guys all linked together, especially with a few extra Verbers, 2 Cornets, it's just fantastic. They just work really, really well. So that is my infantry tab. Like I said, T15, what a vehicle. What an absolute beast of a vehicle. Ooh, make it look black. Once you go black. Anyway, yeah, you absolutely have to have it in this more expensive Kinjal, which I think that's like a sword in Russian, a type of sword, a saber maybe. Yeah, you want the Kinjal module instead of the boomerang, even though boomerang looks a lot more pretty. But yeah, this vehicle is a beast. Love it. Right, okay, I've rambled on enough. I also had the 35 points, the BTRD as a transport. Useless, super slow, paper thin armor. Why on earth would you bring this out? Honestly, you may as well just bring them out in a VDV Kamaz instead. So, moving on to the vehicles tab. So as you can see, I've still got my Terminators, in the maximum setup, because obviously you want the additional armor, just for the extra hit points really, more than the actual armor itself. Just to make it more survivable, because this does not have active protection, it only has smoke. But the Terminators are unreal. I love the Terminators. I'm never ever going to change this aspect of the deck. I could potentially take one less, to be fair, but when you get them together, Terminators in a pair will rip apart infantry without skipping a beat. They are just unreal. And, you know, these 4 missiles, having 4 of them, is also puts them pretty strongly against light tanks like the M1 and stuff like that. Look at the armor, it's really good. Can take a bazooka to the face, no problem. Struggles with javelins though, which is why you have the smoke. T90 Arena. So back then I had 2 Armatas. Classic noob move. You want Armatas because they are the best single tank in the game, right? Here's the Armata. It is beautiful, even though in reality obviously we know it has some problems. But it is a beautiful concept. It's a great bit of engineering, well, on paper. And it's just a lethal killing machine. You'd obviously want to upgrade it. You don't need the top attack missile. I'd rather the direct fire with the extra range. You've only got 3 of them anyway. So look, when you upgrade, you get 3 extra missiles with top-down capabilities. What's the point? You may as well just have on the stock. Save yourself 20 points. Anyway, I've matured. I love the Armata still, but it's too expensive. This is only 60 points cheaper, but trust me, it does make a difference. I still love the Armata. It's also a lot quicker. As you can see, 40 reverse speed, whereas this is 20. That's feeble. The Russian tanks do have problems with reverse gearing. I also had the TACs with the APS configuration, but the armor is just paper thin. Absolutely feeble. If this thing gets shot in the sides as well, it is gonna... oh, it's pathetic. Let's be real. I'm not the biggest fan of the T80. Actually, I kind of hate it these days. What I like instead is the T90A, which is actually cheaper. 30% ECM. And the armor's thicker at the front. And the gun is slightly better. T90s are good. T90s in this configuration are good. 30% of ECM is not something to laugh at, you know? I've had helicopters miss a fair amount, even though javelins are hard to escape, but that's where you smoke. And if you just need a cheap unit, you can actually go for this 170. You still get 30% ECM. Look, I mean, the armor's the same, pretty much. Yeah, it's exactly the same. But 170 as opposed to 250 points. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy cheap. This is a fantastic vehicle. This is the best budget, well, it's not budget, but it's the best cheap-ish tank in the game by a mile. So I'd highly recommend using the T90 in either configuration. It works really well for both. Obviously, in the upgrade, you get better optics, extra health, slightly better gun, and more speed. So that is why I keep them modernized. Cool, on to the vehicles. Again, last time, let's have a quick look here. I got myself an extra S300. These are just great. They are absolutely fantastic. You know what? I've had it before set up like this. But with this deck, it's just a bit too much reloading, recharging. They are supported by the Tors. I think last time, the Tors, I didn't upgrade them either. I do not think you need the extra missiles, honestly. 8 is enough, and you get 2 of them. So that is obviously 16, but 8 missiles is enough before having to recharge. These are great. Kamaz VDV. So yeah, I still had 4 of them last time as well. I still have 4 this time. Now, the best part about the Kamaz, though, is the fact that... ooh, let's do that. Let's keep it green. Is the fact that it had 14... it has space for 14 men in the back of it. Which, again, could be 2 of these guys and 1 of these guys, right? Third bit is a 4-man squad. So, yeah, pretty versatile amount of people you can bring in it. But anyway, if you bring in a squad of Desantniki, for example, with 10 men, you still bring in supplies at the same time. So you bring in a squad and supplies at a speed of 100. So that's really good. I really like the Kamaz for bringing in an infantry and supply at the same time, and I just keep running these things like shuttle buses, which is exactly what they are. No idea how they get a really old, antique, almost obsolete Russian lorry to run so fast, but you know, whatever. Maybe they pimped out the engine, stuck some nitro, Fast and Furious, upgraded it, right? Who cares? Right, anyway, let's stay on target. I love getting sidetracked, man. Actually, speaking of getting sidetracked, I forgot to say, what would be super cool is if you could have these set up, you know, with 1 of each. If you could set up one with a Metis, one with a grenade launcher, one with a HMG, one with the minigun, I would literally have 8 of these things and 2 of each, and I'd send a massive Lima special rush into the back lines. I think I really I know why they're doing it this way, that you can only have, you know, you can't spread out your variety too much, but why not? You know, it'd be so good if you could. It really would. And I'd have a really big flanky with these boys firing all these things at the same time. It'd be really good. Anyway, back on topic. What else did I have in the support tab? The derivace, which means derivation. As some Russian words are really similar to English. People ask, how is my Russian so good, right? Sometimes it's not that hard, you know? Like, attack in Russian is attack, attaka. It's crazy, right? Anyway, I don't bother with this anymore because the 57mm gun is phenomenal. However, I get that on other vehicles now, like this, and where is she? This. I could get one B-15 out just for a bit of an all-rounder anti-helicopter and anti-tank as well, you know? Oh yeah, maybe I'll edit this deck. I'm always editing my decks, always seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. Before I used to have 3 coalitions, and I think I had the coalition set up in the extended range. Yeah, that would make the most sense. However, this is a better way to do it. 2 of them set up in cluster, 2 of them set up in HE. Again, upgraded range, because otherwise their range is pretty bad. Oh wait, no, what? The range is the same. Okay, the fire rate is what changes. I forgot about that. So 5 to 7, here it's 7 to 8. Not huge, but big enough. You also get laser guided, which is quite important. Now, yeah, this setup works better. First of all, it means you have 4 pieces of arty in the game firing at the same time as opposed to 3. And getting cluster and HE at the same time is such a big advantage. Both of them can fire smoke as well, by the way, which is really good. So, yeah, you know what? 3 bits of arty was great, but having cluster and HE arty at the same time is way better. Also, Russian big arty pieces have a 50 cal on them, so it's a good defense against short-range personnel as well, especially considering there'll be 40 50s firing at the same time. Now, you could bring in the Drock for a bit of extra smoke, a bit of light fire. Obviously, the mortars fire much quicker, but I don't bother. These are enough. It's just an extra bit of micro that you could, but shouldn't really use. The Buratino, the TOS 01, you can get it. This and the Sointcepek, I don't really know how to say that. Sointcepek, I don't know. Some Russian guy tell me, why do they call it that? Now you could get it set up like this. It has a T-72, an old style hull, hence the armor is higher than most armored vehicles. Not as high as modern tanks though, so you could use this, and it would be tempting to rip one of these out or rip an ante out and put one of these in the deck. However, the loading time and the aiming time does take a while. They are thermobaric missiles though, so they'll do really good damage against infantry. I mean, 30 is incredible, to be fair. Kind of making me reconsider my life choices. Maybe again, maybe I should stick this thing in. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below if I'm the one who's being a bit of an idiot here. I'm going to put this like that as a note for myself to investigate this further. You definitely don't need the extra armor on the tank like that. Definitely not. This shouldn't be getting shot. You have to fire at danger close, but fire, smoke, retreat. That is the way to play this vehicle. Anyway, that is the support tab done. Yeah, look at that. You know what? I like that. It's a bit too much arty though. But you know what? In a pinch, it might be... If you get a direct hit on a tank, 30 damage, that will kill it with one shot. You can also pre-load your arty, so you put it to fire on an objective, say, and as soon as the enemy... and press hold fire. And then as soon as the enemy starts capturing that objective, you release hold fire. This fires immediately at the predetermined firing position, which is a great feature because that is how arty should work, you know. You always have predetermined, pre-aimed positions for arty to fire on in real life. Helicopters. Okay, so we are not going to talk too much about the helicopters that I used to have. I had the Korova, which I didn't use once because it's too big. too expensive for what it is, and if it gets shot down, that's way too many men and supplies downed at the same time. Beefy vehicle, I really like it. I love the engineering. It's the biggest helicopter in the world, you know? Like, look at that tiny little thing that can take 21 men, so it's not that tiny. But compared to this can lift an A320, I believe. Maybe without the engines. But it can easily lift a Chinook, you know? That's not even... I think it's just... A Chinook is over half, just over half of its payload capacity. So it can lift a Chinook without breaking a sweat, which is what it did in Afghan in, like, 2000 and something when you know, an American Chinook got shot down. They used one of these things to recover it by a civvy contractor. So yeah, Russia working to save America there. Rare example of the two countries working together. I used to have these helicopters, which I still really like. You know, the Mi-24 that I had on, I still really want to use it, but I just don't have the points. Instead, what I've done, and it'll be interesting to see what you guys think of this. I haven't tested this fully, but this is the new Lima Special. I used to have this set up with the you know, the rockets, the Vickers ATGM, and the Stingers, the Iglas, but not anymore. For 185 points, you get a really, well, one of the tankiest helicopters in game, right? 25% ECM by default. That's unreal. 30 armor, 15 health. It's one of the strongest helicopters in the game. I'd say the strongest helicopter in the game. But you set it up like this. It's got 2,400 viewing range on the optics. That's brilliant. You set this thing up to do a Lima Special helicopter style. So I'm going to have to give it a few more goes. I hope the enemy doesn't watch my videos because they'll see it coming. But you get these nice and wide, potentially low altitude, and just send them on a cheeky flank. If this had stealth as well, you know, higher stealth than 1.25, this would be unreal. And these things, these cannons, rip apart helicopters. I've done that a few times, and it catches people completely off guard, because whilst they're aiming, loading, and firing stingers at you, you come up nice and close to them and shred them, absolutely shred them, with this cannon, the 30mm cannon, and these dual, so you get just four miniguns firing at helicopters. It rips them apart, you know. The Americans can't deal with those. Obviously, you do have to get nice and close. You have to get into half of the Stinger's range. So you are expecting to take a few hits when you do that. However, if you have a couple of these and a couple of these supporting, then it works wonders. Now, I also have the Mi-28, which I have a lot more respect for. I used to not really like this heli, to be honest, at all. But when you stick Limas and the Iglas, yeah, so Iglas, they fight the same, you know, you get 2 pods, but this only gets 4 as well, which isn't a lot. Whereas this has got 8, with 2 firing at the same time. So a pair of these are actually devastating to other helicopters. Again, with the high armor, decent ECM, these are really cool. The Limas, the Lima special missiles. Okay, let's, I'll shut up with that. Top down attack, 20 damage. That's enough to kill a tank in 1 hit. That's insane. You know, yeah, the first one might get stopped by active protection, the second one by smoke, but when the third one hits, the tank is dead. You get a couple of these guys firing at the same time, they're going to rip apart other helicopters and rip apart tanks. I mean, I used to have this as my anti-tank specialist, now it's this guy. He's an anti-tank, anti-helicopter specialist. This is a cheeky flank, destroy their artillery and AA, their Patriots in the back lines now. So I've got less options, but I'm okay with that. I would much rather have 2 of these than a greater variety of stuff. It'd be nice to get a transport helicopter in for quick supplies, but as you can see, I can't afford it by 10 points. Wow, 10 points, that's all that's in it. You obviously get 10% extra, but 10 points and I can't afford it. Big shame, but I wouldn't change, I can't change these loadouts. I wouldn't change them for the world, you know. These are brilliant, brilliant loadouts. Love these helicopters. So, yeah. Win some, you lose some. And I am happy with that. I am really happy with that. So, yeah, I am saving that, keeping it as it is. Air tab. Okay, now, another interesting one to look at. So, again, naive little me had the Su-35 costing 305 points. I wonder, is that because I had this? No. No? What on earth did I do differently last time? Was it this? Yeah, it must have been something like that. Yeah, it must have been literally this. You don't want these ETs. They are semi-active, I believe. Let's just have a double check. Oh no, they are fire and forget. These are the infrared ones, fire and forget. Okay, fair play. Yeah, so I guess I had it set up like this before because I wanted anti-helicopter capability. Obviously, I can't afford it with this setup. So let's go back to having no extra ECM. You still get 5%, that's okay. And having the long-range missile setup. So you get these, which are really good missiles, firing at 9 kilometers, which means that this is unlikely to get shot at itself. And these coming in at close range, firing 7,000 meter air-to-air missiles. So 7 kilometers. Basically, these guys will usually fire at the same time. So 2 missiles shooting at 1 distant aircraft makes this a really good option for 260 points. That's not a lot, you know, but a really good option for firing against other enemy aircraft, making this your air superiority fighter. Now, on a budget, I should add, you could also get the Su-30 on a budget, but the missiles aren't as good and this gets shot down all the time. However, if you set this up, which I did not have before, I didn't even have it in the deck. I used to have the R-76, but look, paradrops are expensive, risky, and even if you successfully drop them, they're likely going to get killed and cleaned out by enemy tanks, etc. So you don't have too much to deal with that. Anyway, so instead I've gone for the Su-30 with these KH-29s, chunky big boy cruise missiles is how the game considers them. I think in real life they are anti-tank missiles. However, the game considers them to be cruise missiles, which is fine by me. The best part about the KH-29, Tango Delta, is the fact that they are so fast that they literally cannot be shot down. I don't think even if you fire this at a Panzer with its you know, the Tunguska cannons, I don't think even they can shoot them down, which is insane. Like, actually incredible, really impressive. The Su-30 is a huge export for Russia just because of how many different types of weapons you can put on this frame. It's a very versatile aircraft, and I really like it, to be fair, for that reason. Anyway, these 4 missiles, they're not the strongest. They do, well, quite a lot of damage, but they're not that accurate. I mean, 50 meters is a big spread, you know, and the blast radius is, well, 96 meters, but they don't seem to ever kill tanks that effectively unless you manage to laser guide them. I don't know. Either way, they just don't seem to do that well against tanks. What they do well against is things like Patriots and artillery, in which case they do fantastically well. You get this thing flying low altitude with afterburners, then you pop it up, it'll fire its missiles, and you immediately drop altitude and go back home. And I think you will get away with it maybe 50, okay, let's say 40% of the time, this thing will return in one piece, which is a fantastic strike, especially for 285 points. Damn, dude, that is a lot. Now, you could stick on an extra set of missiles, but it just becomes ridiculously expensive. 365 now. That's huge. Basically, I don't think it's worth it. Just stick to the ones on the wings, don't put the ones under the fuselage. 6 is too many. They fire rapidly, by the way, as well. They take seconds. They literally just go pew, 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 pew. That's it. Easy, rapid firing missiles, then you RTB, try and escape the Patriots. Anyway, super cool plane. Not many people use it this way, and that is something that should change. Su-34, the most beautiful plane in the world, I would argue. You can argue other planes, but I don't care. I love this plane just because of how it looks more than anything. I mean, look at that little, let's hide the hood. Look at that little duckling swan sort of head. I really like it. Anyway, concentrating on the actual effectiveness of the vehicle, we look at this setup. This setup is brilliant because they're all high drag. There you go, high drag bomb, which means that you can fire this thing at low altitude. It is rapid, it has got good agility, it's got 5% ECM. You could add extra ECM on, but obviously, as you can see, I can't afford it. So I would actually do this if I had spare points, but I just don't. I'm literally to the brim with my 10% allowance. So the 20% would make it more survivable, but honestly, when this thing drops its bombs at low altitude and RTBs, this thing makes it home, I'd say probably 75% of the time. I would say this thing safely makes it home, making it expensive but well worth it. I used to have this set up with the air-to-ground missiles and the anti-radiation missiles and bombs and R-73s with ECM, making it super duper expensive. Even though, yeah, actually it's 410 in the old setup. Unnecessary, trust me, super unnecessary. You want this setup. This setup kills tanks, infantry, and lightly armored vehicles all at the same time, like guaranteed as well. Literally almost guaranteed that these bombs will rip apart those vehicles. Love the Su-34 because of how it looks and because of how deadly it is in game. Now, the most interesting one is the Su-57. I think that I might have had it just as a seed only. Yeah, that makes sense. 395 points. Used to have it as a seed only aircraft, which is crazy. You don't need it to. You need 400 points for a seed run of 4 missiles is crazy. Don't do that. Instead, you should do this. Trust me, this is fantastic. The stealth is 1.25. It's not phenomenal, actually. It's really... I was actually shocked that this isn't higher when the game came out. I think it should be. Anyway, it's an unproven aircraft. It's obviously never seen action. It's still in the development stages. Fun fact, it's actually supposed to be, once they, the engineers, obviously, they draw up a design and make it futuristic, but in reality, it doesn't always come out. But anyway, on the plans, this is supposed to be able to cruise at Mach 2, which is insane for any aircraft. The Concorde managed to cruise at 1.5 Mach, I think, or was it? Somebody fact check me. Super interesting, but it is such an engineering achievement if Russia manages, or if the engineers manage to achieve that, but ultimately, right now, they don't have the technology for that. But that is what's promised in the Su-57, and you know what, just for terms of human scientific advancement, I hope they achieve that, because subsonic Mach 2 cruising ability is unheard of. I'm not even sure if some planes can do that with afterburners on. Anyway, enough of that. This is fantastic. You keep this thing, hold fire, low altitude, pop it up to fire at tanks. Again, look at these missiles. Air-to-ground missiles, 950 penetration from... yeah, top-down, is it? No, okay, it's not top-down, but it's, that'll get through a lot with 23 damage. That's huge. 2 of these will destroy a SEP V3 trophy. It cannot be destroyed by APS. It can be interceptable, but, super... Oh, wait. No, it can't be interceptable. These can be, but... Yeah, fair enough. 2,700. Actually, these are faster missiles than those other ones, so yeah, impossible to intercept them. Brilliant. They just work. They can also be laser guided for more effect. Active protection doesn't destroy these at all. This is a great setup. You should try this. And obviously, once you pop up and remove hold fire, these will fire at close range to enemy anti-aircraft, meaning that the probability of destroying anti-aircraft is higher than it was when you fire it at 8,000 meters. Ideally, you'd want these in a pair. So when you have these together in a pair, they rip apart tanks and radar. And unfortunately, that's not an option for me in this build. I would be tempted to remove the Su-34, but if you have 6 tanks, you bring in this. This will destroy 6 tanks happily. And any infantry in support as well. This will destroy the radar in depth and the artillery, and this will destroy aircraft at range. So this is a very balanced deck for my air tab, and I just can't afford it. And I'd love to. I'd honestly happily sacrifice 415 points. I'd sacrifice 2 T90s for 2 Su-57s, honestly. But I'm unable to do that. So yeah, this is how the deck has changed. I mean, I need to cut 30 points. We'll take this thing out. There we go, saved 10,000. On the money. It's so satisfying when you get it on the money. So yeah, very satisfying indeed. I would actually like an extra one of these, which I could sacrifice 1 Terminator for, or maybe 1 tank for. Let me have a play with that, and you know what? Otherwise, this is honestly one of the best decks in game. It is certainly, in my humble opinion, one of the best decks for Russia, and I hope you guys agree. There are things that I can obviously change and tweak, and you know what, I'd love to hear your suggestions. If you've got stuff that maybe I've missed or not quite said correctly, then please do let me know in the comments below. As always, a massive thank you to the guys supporting me on Patreon and other means. Like, I've got my own little shop now, which actually started as a bit of a laugh, but it's actually going alright. People actually want to buy a mug with Lima on it. Thank you guys, I love that. Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deck build video. Please feel free to look at the last one to compare, well, also to compare me as a YouTuber, you know, from back in the day to now, see how different I've become. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, especially if you've stayed this far. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks, bye-bye.